That was Mr. Kennedy's Blues by Son House, and today this lesson is going to be focusing on that particular song. So we're going to break down all the chordings and the structures and the tunings associated with it for your learning purposes. And this song features from the fantastic double set LP from the 1965 sessions. Probably his best work comes from that album, and if you look at my catalog on my website, you'll find that most of the songs that feature on there are transcribed and available in lesson format. I've had President Kennedy on my mind in making a lesson for it. It's very distinctive song, very different from his from the other songs that feature in his repertoire. He's not utilizing any sliding. In fact, this song is really paying attention to more of like finesse and really concentrating on chordings and double stops, which are really uncharacteristic of his style. So today we're going to be looking at that in fine detail. So to begin, the kind of guitar that you need, it really doesn't matter for this purpose. Now, he played it on a resonator guitar, but since this song is not utilizing any slide or anything like that, I figured it would just be safe to go with a simple acoustic guitar, which, like what I have here, it doesn't matter what you have. So guitar is fine as is. Now, I like to play with additional accessories. When you play with, in this kind of music, Delta blues music, the best thing to have are plastic finger picks. This is, for me, a personal preference. When you have a plastic thumb pick and an index finger, when you strike the strings, there's more of a stronger resonance. The tonality of the strings are a lot crisper, and it's more dynamic of a sound when you strike the strings. This is especially important when you're playing finger picking styles where the bass accompaniment is consistent and more fluid. You like to have these finger picks to supplement you here. As far as President Kennedy's song here, if you don't have finger picks, it's not a big deal. He's not really utilizing finger picking patterns in this song. This song is heavily dominant on double stops and crisp down, aggressive Delta technique strums. And this is very typical of this region of music. It's very dirty, rugged, and very abrasive. This is really Son House's repertoire in a nutshell. So we have our guitar, and we have, if you need finger picks, there's always an option available to you. And this song, President Kennedy, is played in open G tuning. A lot alike of his other songs are played in the same tuning. So it's an open G tuning, but it's down tuned one step. Whereas initially you'll have G being your open note, well, that's gonna turn into, or D being the top note, the D, well, that's going to turn into a C sharp. Now, if you have the tablature available to you, I have all of that transcribed and pointed out to you. So if you listen to the original recording from the 1965 sessions, the song is played in open G tuning, but he's down tuned one step. So the top string is going to be a C sharp instead of a D. So let's tune our guitars to each other so we're in tonality. I'm tuned exactly to what you would hear on the original recording. So in case you want to learn on your own, you'll be tuned in unison. So this is my first string. I'm going to play. It's going to be a C sharp. My fifth string is going to become an F sharp. My fourth string is going to be a C sharp. My third string is going to be an F sharp. My second string is going to be a B flat. And finally, my bottom string is going to be a C sharp. All together. Okay, so now we're tuned together, and I wanted to take this time to discuss about positioning of the right hand. Since this song is going to be utilizing a series of double stops and a combination of double stops and strums, you want to have a standardized position with your right hand. And this is a technique that I like to utilize. And what you do is, when you look at my right hand here, you got like a shadow puppet style here. You do this and move your hand diagonally, so you're doing like a shadow puppet right here. Okay? So your arm's going to be draped here diagonally, and what you want to do is with the palm of your hand, the outer lining of the palm of your hand, you want that to rest. You want that to rest on top of the 6th string. Just tamper and just lightly dampen the top string with the outer lining of your palm, doing this shadow puppet kind of thing. And the thumb is going to be resting like this on top of the string. So you have this shadow puppet like this, and your index finger is going to be free to strike any of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings. And that's how you want it, like this. So again, I got this draped, my palm is draped on the top string, and my index finger is going to be ready to engage the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings based on the chordings and the melodic tones that feature in the song. So ultimately what you want to capture in the duration of the song are these double stops, which will be like, okay? And notice, and I will discuss what's being played there here shortly, but notice that when I play something like that, the outer lining of my thumb kind of switches down, slides down, and I'm playing these double stops, and my thumb is focusing on the 6th, 5th, and 4th string, and my index finger is focusing on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings. And so you create this mechanism with your right hand, which plays the double stops or the chords needed. It's creating that perfect balance between the bass accompaniment and the treble strings. Okay. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but that's something that I want to stress out of great importance. And when you engage the material, you're just going to be pinching like this, the index finger and the thumb, pinching. And the thumb and the outer lining of the thumb is going to be draped, lightly draped, hovering above the strings. So, all right. So we've talked about the kind of guitar that you need. It's really no large emphasis on that. Finger picks and the right hand positioning. We've talked about the tuning, so now we're tuned up to each other. And now we're ready to go. Okay. So, if you have the tablature available to you, it's going to be important to have. What he does in the introduction is it's really like a impromptu introduction. It's pretty dirty. It's really more of like a cough, like, okay, I'm warming up my voice, I'm stretching out. So in the song, he's just doing this. He's just doing this kind of series of open strums. like stretching out. He's just playing a series of open strums. And when he kicks off that, he's doing something on the 3rd fret, 3rd string. 3rd fret, 3rd string. He plays that briefly, and then he's playing these open strums. And then he engages and he initiates the main riff after he plays this impromptu beginning. And he goes. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the introduction because there's really nothing to transcribe there. We want to focus on the core of the melody, which is the most important driving factor into the song. So in the President Kennedy Blues, he starts off, the introduction is really the verse. So he plays that whole segment without singing, and then he plays it over again, the same piece, and then there come the words after that. So the introduction we covered. Now we're going to talk about the characteristic riff that features here, and this is, you got to pay attention here because this is ultimately what's driving the core of the song. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate the 7th and 9th fret on the guitar, and you're going to be playing a double stop, a series of double stops. And what a double stop is, if you don't know what that is when you have your thumb and your index finger playing individual strings at the same time without playing a chord. So notice I have my thumb on the 4th string and my index finger on the bottom string, and I'm playing these two isolated strings at the same time. Oh, sorry, 3rd and 1st string. That's a double stop. I'm not playing the 2nd string, I'm only playing the 3rd and 1st string instead of a chord. And that's a double stop. And that's a characteristic feature of this song, and that's where the melody really comes out, because he's focusing attention on only those 2 strings rather than being lost in a chord. So that's an accentuation that Son House is using, right? Now I discussed earlier about the right hand technique, and this is where it's going to play. So first off the bat, let's find the 7th and 9th fret and put our fingering here. We're going to finger this chord shape, and it's going to remain, this fingering of the chord shape is going to remain intact, and you're going to slide up the neck board with this fingering intact, and it's only going to change on the 4th and 5th fret, which I'll discuss later on. But first, your index finger is going to be the main guiding force for your bass string of these double stop chords, right? So the first chord, you're going to find your index finger on your left hand, and you're going to find the 7th fret 3rd string, right? Your pinky is now going to find the 9th fret bottom string, okay? That's how the chord sounds. So you got this fingering, right? And now with this fingering intact, you're going to play a double stop, which will sound like this. And this is going to be very important. So the right hand, if you pay attention to the right hand, whereas initially I had the palm of my hand draped over the 6th string, well now that drops down to the 4th string. So you're right now in the area of the 4th string. The palm is draped over the 4th string, and your thumb is going to drop down all the way to the 3rd string, and your index finger is going to remain positioned on the 1st string, ready to strike. So that first chord will sound like this when you play this double stop. And you pinch together the thumb and the index finger are going to converge together like pinching. And that's how you would play that chord, and that is a technique that's going to be utilized heavily throughout the duration of the song. So that first chord just sounds like this. In this first measure of the riff, there are essentially eight notes here. 8 notes in all in this measure, and the first 4 notes will sound like this. Okay, so initially we talked about that first chording, which was on the 7th and 9th fret. That's the first note. And now with this fingering on your left hand intact, you're going to slide over to the 6th and 8th fret. So now my index finger is on the 3rd string, 6th fret, and my pinky finger is on the bottom string on the 8th fret. And that's how that double stop goes. So that's the second note in that sequence. And then you go back to the 7th and 9th fret again. So the first 3 notes will be like this. 1, 2, 3. And I'm doing this double stop pinch for all 3 notes. And it's important to get that pattern down, that the fingering position of your left hand remains the same, intact. 1, 2, 3. And then, after this 3, the 4th note, he's going to go slide all the way over to the 4th and 5th fret. And your index finger is really going to be just sliding, and now instead of the pinky, your 3rd finger is going to take over, and the new fingering shape will be your index finger is going to be on the 4th fret, 3rd string, and your ring finger is going to be on the bottom string, 5th fret, and it's going to sound like this. But in this case, he's actually playing a down strum of all the strings. And this is a very important chord because it's going to serve as all of the measures are going to resolve and begin on this chord. It almost in a way serves as the 1 chord. In this case, in a 1-4-5 progression, it's almost like that 1 chord. That's where it wants to resolve to. So the first 4 notes sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and then you slide all the way over to the 4th and 5th fret. And if you want your pinky to take it or your ring finger, it doesn't matter what's comfortable, whichever way is comfortable with you. You maintain this new chording position and you do a downstroke. So 1, 2, 3, downstroke. And then he plays 2 more strums of this chord. So it'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very easy and straightforward. So when you do this strokes, you could do like a Sunhouse delta strum. There's very brisk and abrasive downstrokes, which emphasize a lot of power and force in the special expression that Son House like to utilize. Right? So that's just an example. So essentially, he plays that these first 6 notes that I'm talking about, he just repeats it again. So you have this. From the beginning, will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the first note is that 7th and 9th fret, 6th and 8th fret, 7th and 9th fret, and 4th and 5th fret. And you'll have to memorize it because it's going to appear over and over again throughout the duration of the song. So the first 12 notes in that introduction are like this. So we're making wave here. We're utilizing the discipline of the right hand, the way it double stops, and then these brisk strokes. Ultimately, it's going to be a combination of those 2 patterns. So when he plays this, right after he plays this, after the 3rd strum, 1, 2, 3, he plays just an open strum once. So it'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, strum. And the next portion, he's going to go to the 7th and 9th fret again. This position that I was talking about, this chording. And it would be like this. That's something that we're going to get ahead into. So that initially this beginning intro, and what we're going to talk about here is the next part of this riff. So he goes into the 7th and 9th fret and he plays that 3 times and goes 1, 2, 3. Next, he's going to slide up to the 8th and 10th fret, maintaining the same positioning with the left hand. Your index finger is going to be on the 8th fret, 3rd string, and your pinky finger is going to be on the bottom string on the 10th fret. And you're going to play this double stop now twice. It'll be like this. So the next portion of that riff, going from the 7th and 9th fret, will be like this 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll cap that off. So 3 on the 7th and 9th fret, then twice on the 8th and 10th fret. Then he goes back to the 7th and 9th fret once, and then to the 5th and 7th fret, maintaining the same chording position. The left hand is going to maintain that chording, fingering, and you're just going to be sliding up the neck board. The only time that changes is when you resolve to the 4th and 5th fret. So in this next portion of it, it will all together sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pretty straightforward and simple. So starting from the beginning of the riff will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Open strum. And now we're going into the second part of the riff after the open strum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright. So after he plays that, he plays these brisk open strums, preluding to this next portion, which is going to sound like this. So this is the portion of the song where it goes, boys, ain't it sad, he's the best friend we had, his memory still rings in my head. Right? So when he plays after this, alright, so you're gonna, in this next portion, you're gonna maintain the fingering on the 5th and 7th fret. Your index finger is gonna go on the 3rd string, 5th fret. And your pinky finger is going to be on the bottom string on the 7th fret. And you're going to play these double stops 3 times. And that's that sequence that we're going to cover here. So this is the portion of the song where it goes, boys, ain't it sad, he's the best friend we had, his memory will string my head. So when he's playing here, he plays, it'll be a combination, you'll play this double stop 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So when he plays this 3 times, 1, 2, 3, with the double stop, with your ring finger, your ring finger, while maintaining this positioning of the chord, your ring finger is gonna go up, and you're just gonna chunkify the 7th fret top string, and you're gonna play this bass note. It's kind of like a choppy way of playing it, a really dirty way of playing it, but it's really keeping it consistent with that 4-chord structure. Now, in the tablature, I have it listed out as being played this top string on the 7th fret 3 times. But in the original recording, I think he just plays it once. So it'll sound like this: 1, 2, 3. And it's really, that's just what I'm listening to the recording. He really emphasizes it and is playing this really sloppy way of playing the bass note here. But it's keeping him anchored in that unique chording in that slot. That bass accompaniment keeps him right into tempo, which is pretty neat in its own regard. So in this portion, in this segment of the song, he plays this chording a series of 9 times. So it'll be like this: 1, 2, 3, bass. 1, 2, 3, bass. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9. So, boys, ain't it sad? He's the best friend we had. His memory rings in my head. Right? So when he plays this portion here, and then it's sad, his memory will ring in my head. I'm gonna about that portion here. So when he caps off, I talked about that you played this sequence here on the 5th and 7th fret 9 times. As he transitions into the next portion of that riff, what he's going to do is go from the 5th and 7th fret, and he's going to slide to the 7th and 9th fret again. So he goes from the 5th and 7th fret to the 7th and 9th fret, and then you're going to pluck the 7th and 9th fret, and you're going to slide all the way to the 4th and 5th fret, playing that double stop. So all together it sounds like this. Boys, ain't it sad, he's the best friend we have, his memory will ring in my head. 5th, 7th, 9th, 7th and 9th, and you pluck it again, and you resolve all the way to the 4th and 5th fret shaping. A little bit tricky there. Boys, ain't it sad, he's the best friend we have, his memory will ring in my head. 5th, 7th to the 7th and 9th, then you pluck it again and slide all the way to the 4th and 5th fret. And you'll be playing a double stop on the 4th and 5th fret position. And again, with this riff, it's about recycling the same chords over and over again. Just switching back and forth up the neck board. The chordings are going to remain consistent and the same. So in that portion it goes, his memory will ring in my head. And he sits on that 4th and 5th fret for a while. He plays a few strokes. Memory will ring in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to cover this portion next. Alright, so bridging it all together, I'm going to start from the beginning of the riff so that we're all caught up and you can conceptualize what's going on here. So the beginning of the riff goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's how it all comes together. And now we're going to discuss this part here. So when he goes, this memory will ring in my head, he sits on the 4th and 5th fret. So he's sitting there for a while. And then he's going to go into this portion where he's talking about, and I'm on non-munching. His memory will ring in my head. And we're going to talk about this anomaly in the song, and he's utilizing an octave in here, which I'll discuss, but it's this, he's playing this chording. He's going to be playing this shape here. So after he's sitting on this 4th and 5th fret, he goes into this portion of the song where he goes, and I can't much in a tell his memory will ring in my head, and I can't much in tell. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So this portion where he says, and I can't much in tell. I'm going to talk about these two chords here. So catching us up to this portion I'll play a little bit of getting us there. So, boys, ain't it sad? He's the best friend we had. His memory will ring in my head. And you go, and you sit on the 4th and 5th fret about 5 times. In my head, and I do 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 do. And that's what we're going to talk about here, is this. So now what you're going to do is you're going to break this kind of chording we've been used to with the double stops, and now you're just going to play this chunky chord. You're going to bar with the index finger the 1st and 2nd strings on the 5th fret, and with your middle finger you're going to find the 6th fret 3rd string, and that chording is going to sound like this. Pretty straightforward. He's going to play that, you're just going to downstroke with your thumb. You're going to play that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then this chord will now eventually turn into this octave piece. Now your index finger is going to find the bottom string on the 5th fret, and your ring finger is going to find the 2nd string on the 8th fret. And you're literally going to be playing an octave here. And he's going to play that about 3 or 4 times. And that combination is going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pretty straightforward. And this is the portion of the song where he goes, and I can't much and tell, and his memory will hang in my head. So we got that portion down. So when he's sitting on this octave, he eventually resolves back to the 7th and 9th fret. But before he gets there, he starts his ascent of the neckboard from the 4th and 5th fret position, and then he slides to the 6th and 8th fret, back to the 7th and 9th fret. So ultimately what you want to gather from this, I'll play this unique chording here. It'll be like this. And I can't much and tell, memory, his memory rang in my head. And that's what we're going to get here. So there's can't much and tell. And now what you're going to do after you play this octave, you're going to play 2 open strums very briefly and sound like this. 1, 2. And then you're going to play the 4th and 5th fret either once or twice. 1, 2, and then you're going to find the 6th and 8th fret again. So it's this ascent back to the 7th and 9th fret after you play those unique chording shapes. And I'll bridge it all here together, so it'll be like this. And I can't much and tell's memory, his memory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His memory. His memory rang is probably the trickiest portion of the song, because he's ultimately stopping and he's letting his voice take care of that measure as like a whole rest, or as a whole note there. So it's this, and I can't sell the memory. 1, 2, 3. His memory rang in my head. So it's about this tricky transition. Again, I'm going to play this unique shapes. His memory. 1, 2. His memory will raise in my head. I'll try to convey that a little bit more articulately. Right? So in playing this chord shapes, he plays in this octave, and I can't much and tell his memory. When he plays this part, his memory, his memory's in my head. It's this portion of the song where nothing is being played with a guitar. The voice is carrying out the remainder of that measure. And you'll have to listen to the original recording to get your timing right. His memory, 1, 2, his memory rang in my head. And now we'll cover that portion here. So when he plays this, his memory, his memory served in my head. When he goes into this portion, he's going to be on the, he's going to slide into the 7th and 9th fret, and then he's going to make his descent up the neck board. His memory rings in my head. And to do that, it'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, open 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he resolves on that 4th and 5th fret, open strings. And it's a little bit tricky to gather it at the end here, but we'll bridge it all together. So I'll get to this portion where he goes, boys ain't it sad. So it'll be like, boys ain't it sad, he's the best friend we had, his memory will ring in my head, but I can't much and tell his memory, his memory rang in my head, his memory will hang in my head. He's just striking these, memory will reign in my head. So you're gonna play that portion of the outro. This last measure will be, you strum this once, then go to the 6th and 8th fret, strum that, then just pull off into the 5th and 7th fret. 1, 2. You do like a hammer on into the 5th and 7th fret, and then you play open and resolve on the 4th and 5th fret. It'll be like this. 1, 2, 5th and 7th fret, open, 4th and 5th fret. And then you strum with this position in the 4th and 5th fret. And that's ultimately the riff and the main concepts through the song. So when he's playing this 4th, 5th fret, he goes back to coda and he goes to the beginning of the riff. Make some that way. tablature where I'm talking about or convey the lyrics on the tablature in order for you to assist. But ultimately what you want to do is follow along with the original recording to match up with your timing and your voicings. So altogether, let's reiterate, let's put this riff to scratch. So the beginning of the riff goes like this. You're finding the 7th and 9th fret, and we'll start it out, we'll count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we took it from the beginning to the end there, the riff. But I want to reiterate is that all you really got to do is get these double stops down. And when you maintain this position, it really becomes fluidity and second nature. You know what I mean? And that's really the crux of the song. The only time it's going to get different is when he's playing these unique octave shapes. That's really the outlier in the whole structure of the song. As far as a compatibility level of skill, it's probably going to be a medium to advanced. This lesson is going to be more for the advanced player. But if you utilize the concepts of the right hand picking techniques, you should be fine to follow through. The tablature is out there as a good supplement. And again, a very strange and particular piece by Son House, but a very beautifully written song. And that whole LP has got it's just a full catalog of his whole repertoire. It does stuff in E standard, tunings like this. This song he's not utilizing the slide, which I found was pretty interesting. But I'm happy to at least get this lesson out there and package this song up, because there's not that much material out there, especially for this song. It's a very interesting song from his catalog. But that wraps up the lesson, and wishing you guys the best. So if there's any questions, feel free to email me. But I hope you have fun with this, because it's a really beautiful song, and I'm going to post up the lyrics on my website too. So again, this is Delta Lou, and I'm signing off, and I'm wishing you the best in your learning campaign for Son House.